Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations on Addiction presented by DreamLife Recovery. I am Mary Fran Bontempo. I am here with my friend and colleague, Diana Dubs.
Hi.
And thank you again for joining me on this project. I just think it's so important to be able to have these conversations. We are both moms and both have had experience in the world of addiction in different ways. I am the mom of a son who is in recovery, and Diana, you are a mom who is in recovery.
Mhm.
So today what we wanted to talk about, I was talking to Diana about this earlier, and one of the things that I realized in my journey with David and his struggles with addiction, which went on for a very long time, when you're in the middle of that, when you're in that kind of pit, that ugly place, and things happen to you, whether you're, that aren't of your making necessarily, when you're in crisis and all that, you have a decision to make. And that decision is, am I just visiting this place of crisis or challenge, or am I going to unpack my bags, pitch the tent, and live here? Is this where I'm going to be for the rest of my life? And for me, as a mom of an addict, it was really, really important to make that conscious decision that I was not going to live there, that this was not going to be the thing that was going to define me for the rest of my life, and I wasn't going to sit in that spot, which doesn't mean you aren't going to deal with it, which doesn't mean you aren't going to, it's not going to be a part of your story. It just, for me, it needed to be a place that I wasn't going to stay forever, because it was too painful, and it wasn't something that I chose. It was something I had to deal with, but I could make the decision that it wasn't going to define my every moment from then on.
So it brings up, I think that that's multifaceted, because as we're talking, it reminds me of something. And, I have to say something. I respect, for those that are watching that are members of programs of recovery, I respect the traditions. I choose not to live in anonymity, right? So I'm an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I choose not to be anonymous because I find that my story helps people,
Right.
and in that the reason why I say that is because my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous always tells me, like, you have 30 minutes, to sit in your shit, and then you got to wrap it up, and because I can be that person that I will unpack, I will pitch a tent, I will live there, I'm bringing in comfortable clothes, like I'm I'm
Yeah.
going to set it up,
Mm-hmm.
and when I call her with something, she's like, okay. She's like, let's look at all sides of it. Now you got 30 minutes, clean it up, and let's figure out how to resolve it, because there's always a resolution,
Yeah.
And I think when you and I were talking about this yesterday, it brought up something different for me, because on my side of things, when I talk to people all the time, I get a different version, right? Because they're coming to me with all these great things that had happened in their life before, and now they've hit bottom, and they're saying, but I was making a great salary, and I had a wife, and I had a husband, and I had kids, and I had all these things that were going on, and they're living in that moment. And I say,
Mm.
right, but we're not there right now. Right now, you're in the middle of a relapse. You have lost everything. Nobody wants to talk to you. And now we got to figure out how to fix it, And I think that's also another facet of not living in that moment, right? Because everything, our lives are just set up. They're just minutes put together,
Right. Right.
and we have some good minutes and we have some bad minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the bad minutes are a lot of minutes put together, and sometimes the good minutes are a lot of minutes put together. And we really have to live in this time. What's happening right now, what's
Right.
going on right now. I'm sorry, I'm letting my dogs in. This is the true honesty of what's going on.
No problem. But, it was interesting, because when we talked about this yesterday, when we were deciding how we were going to approach these conversations, this conversation today, I hadn't thought of it that way. I thought of it as, for me, it was, I can't live in this place, this horrible place, forever. I have to get out of it. But for you, what you were saying was you also have to be careful that when you are an addict, when you are in recovery, that you don't live in that past place and not face your current issues.
Well, and I think it's also important to understand that we can't live in the material of things either, because all those things are just, they're things and they go
Yeah.
away, and you know when we talk about like acquiring things because of recovery, right? So we talk about, getting the family back and getting the job back, and having kids and being responsible and having friends. We have to be understanding of the fact that all those things go away. They go away. None of them are permanent. Recently I wrote an article for a website, and I was talking about the pandemic and the quarantine, and I remember feeling this like impending sense of panic when this happened, and the recovery meetings had started to close and things like that, but there was a statement that I made that said, my recovery has never failed me, and that's the piece that we have to understand, is that your recovery never goes away. If you're constantly living in that moment of recovery and you're constantly working on that, that's the one thing that's always going to remain constant. The other things, they change. We lose jobs, we lose friends, even family members come and go sometimes, like there's
Sure.
things that are constantly changing, and we just can't live in this idea of how things used to be, and that goes for the mom too that's suffering, or the father that's suffering. We can't live in that, because a lot of times too, your child might be going to treatment for the sixth time or
Mhm.
seventh time, and today sometimes I've seen people that have gone to treatment 18 or 19 times.
Yeah.
Sometimes treatment is not always the answer, and I'll be the first person to tell you that, but it's not my job to judge that, because I can't be the person that's going to judge whether or not they're willing in that moment, because as a parent, if your child is asking you for help and they're doing all the things that are leading them down the right path, we can't live in the 18 times that it hasn't worked before, because this might be the
Right.
one time that it does.
Right, right. So I guess the message here is, in truth, we're really just visiting everything. And
Yeah.
the place that you, at least in terms of our circumstances, in terms of what's going on in the moment of our lives as it is, we're just visiting that place to begin with. However, there is a place where you can set up camp and pitch your tent and live, and that's the place of your values and a commitment maybe to, okay, I'm going to get well no matter how long it takes. I'm going to keep on this journey. As a parent, I think the place that you can live is, and again, it's entirely your decision as to which place you live. For me, it was, I'm going to be here for my child. I'm going to be here to support him when he needs it, if he asks for it. I'm not going to live in the place of, like you said, oh, what he could have been, what could have happened, what life used to be. I'm not going to live in that place, but you can live in the place of, I care about my child. I will do what I can without putting specifics on that. And that might be the best place to be. Like, you don't necessarily want to put parameters on something that you have no control over. You don't want to say, I'll live here and I'll commit to this if this happens, because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
I just think, this idea of unpacking and living in a place, it goes back, we talked on our first episode about willingness, right?
Mhm.
And we talked about willingness is the idea of willing to do anything, even when you don't want to,
Right.
and that's what it means, when you don't unpack and live someplace, you're committing to the idea that you're you're accepting that this is not permanent. This is not permanent. This is not what it looks like. This just happens to be what the right now and what this minute looks like right now.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to be sober tomorrow. I hope that I am. I've been sober for 6.5 years of 24 hours, however many minutes that is, you know what I mean? I
Hmm.
don't know if tomorrow I'm going to wake up and make that decision to be sober, but I know that I am today, and I'm
Right.
going to live in today. I know what I need to do to keep myself sober today in order to keep all the things that I have right now, you know? And then tomorrow I have to get up and I have to do all those things again tomorrow to keep all the things that I have. And I would imagine that when my boys get older and they hopefully don't become like me, but probably will, that I will be able to look at it that way, as a parent, that I'm going to have to do what I need to do to practice my own recovery from them 24 hours at a time, you know,
Yeah.
um, and just keep it as simple as possible. I think sometimes, as a human race, we just overcomplicate everything, you know?
Well, I think I've said this so many times that our brains are our greatest blessing and our biggest curse, because it's the greatest blessing in that, we have this power to think and project and do, but it's a curse in that, we end up, oh, hi, buddy. We end up talking about and planning things that are not reality, and we live back there, or we live over there instead of living here. And I think that's the thing that we need to concentrate on, that we are living here, we are living in this moment. What can we do in this moment, which is our reality, to live by our value system, to move forward, to commit to a recovery, and to commit to, as a parent, being there but not living in that mindset of that pit of addiction all the time. You don't have to stay there every minute of every
Right.
day.
Right. And right now I'm dealing with the pit of my son coming up and telling me that my son crashed his four-wheeler in the basement into a wall. So,
So maybe this is a good time to end this discussion, because apparently you have to see if somebody's conscious downstairs. But I think the bottom line here is, to recognize that we do not have to commit to living in a place of sadness and destruction, but we also can commit to living in a place of moving forward, of hope, and of recognizing that there is help for this. We just have to build our team of experts.
I think that what rings true is the idea of, we build our tribe and we build our village, and we ask our village and our tribe to help carry us through those moments where we can't unpack and live, you know? Um,
Exactly.
that's why I have a woman that tells me I have 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes to get your shit together. And she doesn't tell me that because she doesn't see the side where, I deserve to, be in pity and things like that. She does that because she knows that if I unpack and live there, the one thing that's constant, which is my recovery, that's what's going to suffer from it. And
That's
then
it.
everything else suffers.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the message. You don't want to live there, because if you get too comfy and you put that beanbag chair up, then you know how hard it is to get your butt out of a beanbag chair. Like, you never come out of that. So you acknowledge it, you accept it, you deal with it, but then you don't live in that place and you move forward. So I'm going to let Diana make sure her children are all okay. And I want to thank everybody for joining us again for these conversations on addiction. And Diana, can you tell everybody where they can find you, so that if there is someone that is out there and needs to talk to somebody, needs treatment, needs help, that they can reach out to you?
You can call me directly, 609-851-2499.
Okay, and again, we want to thank DreamLife for these conversations on addiction and for presenting them. Thanks, Diana, and please tune in next time. We are here to help you. That's our goal, and anything that you might want to talk about, do reach out and talk to us about that as well. So we will see you next time on Conversations on Addiction, and thanks for joining us. Bye.